This is Kevin and from norming, and we'll be going through the norming maintenance module. And first, we'll go through the process flow for the maintenance activities, and we will go over give you an overview of the agenda today, what we'll be talking about. So for the maintenance module, the process will focus on the back end. So for the moment, we haven't provided the web screen for the site people or for the field people to enter their work orders or their work requests through the mobile and web application. So this asset maintenance is fully built in the Sage 300 with the Sage 300 SDK, and we provide the maintenance, the equipment structures, so you can actually to build your equipment structures and meters or the measurements in the master data. And we also provide the work order. So in the work order, you can define how you are going to process your maintenance. Like you can consume your inventory for the material and use the material in your inventory for the maintenance purpose. And you can also hire the engineers from outside of the office, and you can also pay the suppliers for the maintenance cost. So you can include everything in the work order, and also you can set up the contract. You can set up the contract. We normally call this as the service SLA. And we also allow you to build the preventative maintenance for the planning. So if you have anything like the monthly maintenance, the application will allow you to schedule what equipment or what resources to be consumed, and it will create a work order based on the schedules in the maintenance module. So today we'll be looking at the options, the master for the master data, and I will show you how you are going to create the equipment and how are you going to create the suppliers, the vendors in the maintenance module. And I will show you how you are going to define the resources. So we have the integration with the account payable, EL, and we have the integration with IC and the purchase order. So for the labor cost and the subcontractor, we will allow you to pay the subcontractor or the vendors through the account payable for the labor cost or for the internal or external labor cost. And we will provide you the capability if you have inventory items that can be used for the maintenance purpose. We also integrate with the inventory, so you can select the inventory items. And if you find you are out of stock, so if you want to make the purchase request, we also automate the process, so you can create the purchase request through the maintenance order. And we'll be covering the SLA, and I will show you how you are going to create the agreements and also will go through the maintenance order, whether this is SLA related, and how we are going to create the maintenance entry. So the maintenance order, the differences between the maintenance order and the maintenance entry is the maintenance order is the contract, so it's not the actual cost and not the actual expenses for the maintenance. And you will define the budget, the budget quantity and the budget cost inside the maintenance order. So when the machine or the equipment is damaged, you are going to enter the maintenance entry against the maintenance order. So the maintenance entry is the actual cost. So it's something like the budget versus the actual cost. And we'll be looking at the histories and the reports for all the maintenance activities. Also, I will show you how we are going to define the meters, because sometimes we are going to track the maintenance cost by the meters, maybe the water meters, the kilometers on a vehicle. We also have allow you to define the user-defined meters, and I will show you how you are going to process the meter reading, to update the meter reading, and to generate a maintenance order automatically through the meter reading process. And we also provide a preventative maintenance. So that means you can schedule the maintenance order to be created, and within the maintenance order you can specify the equipment and the resources. Also, we have the schedule function in the SLA agreement, so it will alert you to renew your agreements on a yearly basis or on a monthly basis. We also have the schedule for the meters. So for each month, at the beginning of the month, when you log in SIP 300, the system will pops up the schedule window to let you remember you are going to process the meter readings on monthly basis. And we are going through some advanced options, and we'll go through some tips how you are going to integrate the maintenance, like how you are going to integrate your maintenance module with fixed asset accounting functionalities. So so we can go through the first part, and as you can see on this screen, we have the asset maintenance module. So this is a part of the norming fixed asset solution, and we can use the maintenance to keep track of all the cost related to the maintenance, like you are repairing your vehicles, your servers, and if you want to keep track of those costs, you can use the maintenance module, and this is sold separately from the accounting. So you will need a separate license for the asset maintenance. And the minimal requirement of the systems, and the minimal requirements of the system. Okay, I will mute the mic for Lisa. Okay, if you have any question, you can type in the chat box. So I will answer them at the end of the session. All right, so we'll first look at the master information, and the first step we are going to set up the system is that we are going to set up the master files, like the equipments, the suppliers, and the resources. So the first thing is the equipments. So we can go to the equipment icon, and from this screen we are going to create the equipments for the maintenance. So on this screen we can see the meters, the SLA agreements, option fields, and the statistics. So for each equipment code, you can click in the zoom button. So here we'll list all your fixed assets. So that means that the minimum requirements is that you need to have your fixed assets installed in the fixed asset for the asset accounting installed in your Sage 300. So you can specify the asset ID and convert them to the equipment for the maintenance use. So once you create the equipments, you can further define the other elements related to the equipments. For example, you can create the meters. So if you want to measure the cost by meters, like for the vehicles, maybe for every 100 kilometers you want to run the meter reading, and you can create the maintenance order based on the meter readings. So you can create the meters like kilometers and 10 meters. So you can assign multiple meter codes to the equipments. And for each meter, you can decide whether you are going to create the production batch for the accounting purpose, because for some of fixed assets, they are not using the straight line method for depreciation, and otherwise they will calculate the depreciation based on the capacity, based on the usage of the production. So that means you can streamline the process. So after the meter reading, we can allow you to create the production batch into the fixed asset accounting module, and you don't have to make duplicate entry inside the accounting side. And we have also allow you to log the reading information, like the last reading date and the last reading and the total usage. And click into the details. You can also have more detailed information about the meter reading. So you can have the total capacity and the decimals places, and you can also to create a schedule. So that means for each month, when you log in the Sage 300, the software will give you some warning message that you are going to run the meter reading for this equipment. So this schedule code can be defined in the Sage 300 in the common service, and we'll be looking at this later when we talk about when we look at the meters. So we can also allow you to create the meter readings, to create the maintenance orders based on the readings of the meter. So like that means for every 100 kilometers, you are going to create a maintenance order. And you can also specify the resources, whether you are going to employ a subcontractor or you are going to consume the inventory material for the maintenance. So you can specify what resources will be consumed for the maintenance purpose. So here we can create the meters, and it has the totals and the statistics on the meter reading average and the total usage and the remaining capacity. So you will get the maintenance meter reading history, like when the meter has been read and the current readings and the current usage, whether the maintenance order and the production batch is created. So this is about the equipments. And for each equipment, you can assign as many meter codes as you want if you want to track the readings against the equipments. And we can also allow you to create the SLA, and you can drill down the SLA if you click into the details. So in the SLA, the service level agreements, you can keep more detailed information like the service hours and the effective date. So that means you can put the contract information into the software, and it has the contact information with suppliers, with a service provider, and within the contract, what equipment within the service, and what resources, like if they provide the online and the on-site repairing service, you can assign the resource code into the service level agreements. And for more additional information, we will have the optional fields available in the agreements, and we can also allow you to attach the copy, the scanned documents against the agreements. So in the agreements, we have the, if you pay the provider, the service provider annual fee, we will provide the SLA prices, so you can pay them every year. And we have the budget amount to be defined against the service level agreements. Also, we have the actual expenses. So once your maintenance entry is posted, the actual expenses will be updated. So by the agreement's dimension, you can track all the maintenance activities. And we also, from the equipment perspective, we will also have the statistics. So for each maintenance entry has been posted, has been tracked in the system, we will list the maintenance history for each maintenance activities. Like we have a maintenance entry that consumes the inventory items, and it will update the maintenance history for the actual cost, and you can also drill down to the maintenance entry for more detailed information. So everything will be booked in the system from the equipment perspective. So for each equipment cost, you can get the total maintenance cost, and you can break down to details for the maintenance history. And you can get the year-to-date, life-to-date, and the highest maintenance cost. So this is the equipment. So you can you can link the equipment with the service level agreements, and you can have the statistics at overview level or detailed level. Also, you can also define the meters against the equipments. And if we look back to the slide here, aside the equipments, meters, we also have the suppliers, the resources like engineers and the spare parts to be defined in the system. So we are now looking at the resources and the vendors. So because we have the integration with the account payable, so you can just specify the vendors from the account payable. So these are the vendor numbers coming from the AP module. You can specify them, and besides the basic information like the address, city, zip code, state, contact information, we also provide the locations. So you can define where the vendor is located, whether it's near your office. If you have multiple offices, you can find the nearest suppliers within the region. And we also associate the SLA type against the vendors, and we also shows the equipments which is under the requirements by a specific vendor. So aside the master information, we also provide the locations, SLA type, and all the equipments related to the vendor. And we also have the setup. So in the setup, we have the resources. The resources could be service type or could be the inventory type. So if you are using the service type, we have the options here. If you look at the option, so like for the hotline support service, we have the option to create the account payable invoice. That means if this resources has been posted within your maintenance entry, then you can create account payable against the vendor for the payments. So you can specify a default vendor number against the resources. And you can also specify the cost class. So this is all for the analysis purpose. So you can get to know what type of resources has been spent on the maintenance. So you can specify them and categorize them into the parts for the inventory type, and you can also use the label type for the services. So for the inventory, we have the option to issue IC stock. So that means the system will allow you to convert your inventory to the maintenance expenses. So after you post your maintenance entry with the resource that in your inventory, the system will create the internal usage entry into your IC module. So you can define different type of resources. For example, for the IC stock item, you can specify the item number throughout your IC module. So all the IC items will be available for the maintenance usage. So you can, if you have the inventory, you can also create the resources related to the inventory. And we also have the option here for the issue purchase requisition. So once you find you don't have enough inventory for the maintenance usage, we can create the purchase requisition through the maintenance order. So you don't have to go to the PO and to make separate entries. So I will show you this when I create a maintenance order, and I will show you how the purchase requisition is created. So now we have all the we have defined all the resources, the suppliers, the equipments. Then we can go to the maintenance order, because we have all the master information we need for the work order. So work order is the center of the maintenance activities, because everything will start from the work order. And in the work order, you are going to specify the equipment, the resources, for all type of resources. So you can go to the asset maintenance and go to the maintenance order. So we'll start a fresh maintenance order. So on the right top corner, we have two options. The first one is for the regular maintenance. The second one is for the SLA. So if you have an agreement with the provider, the service provider with the vendor, you can set up the agreements through the maintenance order. So let's click on the setup SLA. So on the setup SLA, we can specify the vendor who will provide the service, and we can specify the SLA type. So the SLA type is also the master information where you are going to define in the maintenance setup. So we have the SLA types. In the SLA type, we can define the hours they provide the service, and we can provide more detailed information in the comment sections. So we are going to specify the SLA type, and we can specify the equipments like we have agreement with the vendor, they are going to repair the server, the IBM server within the year. So we can specify the start date and the expire date. So it's 1 year time, and it's from 2021 to 22. And we can specify the time they are available for the service. And we can specify the type of resources and the type of service they are going to provide for the maintenance, like the hotline support or the on-site service. So we can specify the hourly rate, like for $50 an hour, and we can have the quantity for the budget estimates. So if we put the quantity and the unit cost, we'll get the budget figure. And we can upload the document and optional fields if you require. So we can create the maintenance order as the SLA. And we can specify the SLA price at the moment. So the SLA price is charged like an annual fee. So for every year, if the service provider charge you like $10,000 or $100,000, you can type in the annual fee on the SLA price as the SLA price. So when the maintenance entry is created, you are going to pay the vendor for the 10,000, the 100,000. So this is how we are going to set up the SLA through the maintenance order. So we can start the maintenance order, and the system will gives you the warning message if the maintenance has been taken care of in another maintenance order. So I want to start the order anyway. And we need to change the SLA number because it already exists in the system. So now the maintenance order has been started. That means you can create maintenance entry if you want to pay the vendors, if you want to pay the suppliers. So we can go to the maintenance entry. Payment for annual SLA. And we can we can specify the transaction type as SLA payments. So we can specify the vendor, and the order number will pop up. So this is the 100,000. So we can add the 100,000 to the maintenance entry. And we can also calculate the tax amount. And we can specify the expense account for the for the payment. So once we finish the maintenance entry, we can go to the batch list and post it. So you will get the account payable invoice generated for the payment. So this is how we are going to pay the vendors for the SLA price. So we can go to the account payable. And the last entry is coming from the maintenance for 408,000 plus the tax. So we can also drill down from the account payable to the maintenance entry. And this is the maintenance order for the annual fee of the SLA. If we have some extra payment, like if you have resources, like if they provide the on-site service, maybe for 100 hours, we are going to create another type of maintenance order. So we can go back to the maintenance entry, maintenance order, and create the maintenance order using the regular maintenance. So this is some reoccurring maintenance happened within the year for multiple times. So we can specify this as SLA covered, and so we will link the maintenance cost against the SLA. And we can specify, so the difference is that we can specify the resources that are going to be used for the maintenance. So we have the resource code. So we have the resource code for the on-site service and for the online service. So we have the budget quantity for like 100 hours or 200 hours for the on-site service. And as of now, we don't have the actual expenses. So we are going to set up the budget in the maintenance order. And we can also specify the inventory type of resources. So because this is the resources are not defined in the SLA agreement, so we cannot add this against the maintenance order. I can later to create a new maintenance order that does not associate the SLA agreement, so we can include more resources from the inventory. So for now, I will start the order. So I have started out the order now. I will going to create my maintenance entry. This is for the on-site service. So I can specify the vendor I'm going to pay and the order number. So the quantity will be populated based on how you create your maintenance order. If we only use half of the budget quantity, like only 50 hours and 100 hours for the service, we can change the quantity for the actual expenses. So we can post the maintenance entry for the on-site service and for the hotline support of 50 hours. And if we post it, the AP invoice will be generated, and you can also find them within the invoice batch list. So this is invoice for the maintenance service from the asset management. And if you look at the asset maintenance, if you look at the service agreements, we will have the actual expenses has been updated for the 7,500. So this will allow you to keep track of the maintenance cost on the SLA level. So for each SLA, you can track the cost for the budget amount and the actual price. And you can also get the breakdown for how you are going to spend the money for each resources. So you have spent 50 hours on the hotline support and 100 hours on the on-site service. So you can get more detailed information on how the resources is consumed for the maintenance. And now we can create a maintenance order without the link of the SLA. So we can create a maintenance order if you don't have the agreements with the vendors, you have some random cost, and you can just enter them without take the SLA covered option. So we can specify the equipment, and now we have more resources because we don't have the agreement to restrict what kind of resources can be used against the maintenance. So we can now specify the resources from the inventory and we can specify the vendor, the locations, sorry. So also we have the budget quantity, and the cost for the budget for the estimates. So you will have the option to issue the purchase requisition or issue the IC internal for the internal usage. So when we save the order we can also click into the location, so we can get to know how many items are now available for the usage of the maintenance. And if it's out of stock, when we start the order, we can create the purchase requisition directly through the maintenance order. So we can create the purchase requisition. And the requisition entry will be generated in the purchase order. So you will get the requisition entry generated for the maintenance usage. And this is the requisition from the maintenance module. So after we have reviewed the items in stock, we can create the maintenance entry in the maintenance module. So we can go to the asset maintenance and go to the maintenance entry. So this is for the IC items. So we can specify the document type with issue IC stock, and we can specify the vendor number, the order number, and how many we are going to use for this maintenance. So we can add this and to create the maintenance batch. So if we refresh the batch list, we got the new entry for the IC items, and we can post it. Then you will get the IC internal usage shows up in the IC transaction. So this is the 10 of the items from the maintenance order. You will get the description to be passed to the internal usage transactions. And this is how we are going to create the maintenance entry and to update the actual cost every time if you want to spend how you spend your money on the maintenance. And if you don't want to create the entries manually, we also provide the functions within the periodic processing. So you can create the maintenance order in bunches. So you can specify the range of order, the range of resource code. So every maintenance order that meets the criteria on the creation batch, the maintenance batch will be generated automatically. without using the manual entries. And now we'll be looking at the meters, how we are going to use the meters to track the maintenance cost. Because we have defined the meters within the equipment, so we have multiple meters. Like for the IBM server, we have 2 meters has been created, and we have the last reading. And if we want to update the meter reading, we can go to the periodic processing and to go to the meter reading process. So if you click the Go button, it will show the latest meter reading. And this is the meter against the IBM server. So we can key in the last reading, because this is the first time for the meter reading. We can enter the figures and whether we are going to create a production batch in the accounting, fixed asset accounting. So you will get 1,000 for the usage and for the last reading. And you will have the options whether you are going to create the maintenance order per the settings. So if we look back into the equipments, we have an option on the meter. So this will allow you to create a maintenance order for every usage of 100 hours, 100 kilometers. And you can specify the resources. So if we enable the option to create the maintenance order, after we finish the meter reading process, so let's, because for every 200, it will create the maintenance order. So we put it as 1,000. And if we click the process button, you will get the maintenance order to be generated based on the meter reading, as well as the production batch. So let's go to look at the maintenance order. And this is the last meter reading for the IBM server. And this maintenance order will be generated based on the meter reading. So if you have multiple meters, you can set it up against the equipment. And once you finish the reading, the meter reading process, the maintenance order can be generated on monthly basis or yearly basis, based on how you set up your schedule. How frequently you are reading the meters. And also we have the preventative maintenance order. That means we can schedule the maintenance order. Sorry, so we can go to the maintenance schedules. And for example, we have a monthly schedule. So that means for every month, we are going to perform the maintenance regardless whether the equipment is damaged or spoiled. So we can run the schedule on monthly basis. So you can define the schedule code within the common service of Sage 300. And within the schedule, you can specify all the equipments for the maintenance activities. And you can also specify what resources are you going to spend for the maintenance. So, and under the maintenance schedule, you can define the equipment resources and the associated vendors. And every time, if you log in Sage 300, you will get a warning message. This is for the monthly reminder. So if we process the reminder, we'll get a notification that we have one maintenance schedule processed and we have one maintenance order has been created in the system. So this is how the schedule works for the preventative maintenance. And aside from the schedule for the maintenance order, we also have the schedule for the SLA agreements renewal. So you will get a notification that the SLA will expire soon. And you have the notification for the meter reading that will prompt you that you need to do the meter reading at the beginning of the month. So you can set up different types of notification for different purpose. So you can define the notifications within the meters. So you have the schedule for the meters and you have the schedule for the SLA. So you can also specify a schedule code for the renewal of the agreements for like for an annual basis. And we also have the schedule for the maintenance order creation. And this is how we are going to use the schedule. And for the next part, we are going to look at options for some advanced features. The first one is to manage components for equipment. Because for some equipments, you may have hundreds of parts, like for vehicle, you have many parts to be maintained by the engineers. So that means if you don't want to depreciate them separately, you can just maintain the components within the equipment. So by click the options here, we can go to the equipments and to define the components. So you will get the components tab, and we can keep in free tags like part 1, part 2. So if you have multiple parts to be maintained and to be tracked for the maintenance purpose, you can just to define the component codes. Like for the server, you will have the display and you have the keyboard, for example. So you can break down them into different component codes and to set up meters separately for each part of the component for the equipments. So if you have hundreds of components that can be broken down, you can simply import the components and to maintain the meters separately. And it's not required to define the components within the fixed asset accounting. So we have an option here to map the component to fixed asset. If you enable the option here, then that means you have to predefine these components in the fixed asset accounting as a fixed asset. So you cannot key in free text within the component. So you are going to specify the fixed asset as a component. And if you don't want to maintain them as fixed asset to depreciate them separately, you can simply use the option for the free components. And we also have the the option to limit the vendors by locations, because as I mentioned, we can define the locations for the vendors. So for example, this vendor is located in the northern office, nearby the northern office. We can set up the location for this vendor. And when we create the maintenance order, if the equipment is located in the northern office, you will be able to see the vendors. As 1200, and this is like the location permission. Only the vendor nearby that location, the location of the equipment, that can be shown up in the vendor list. So this will help you to filter all the vendors nearby your office or your warehouse. So it won't show all the vendors that have very long distance from your office. So you can set up the location information for each vendor, and it only shows the nearest vendor, and they can be specified in the maintenance order. And we also have the option to limit the equipment by maintenance order. That means if the equipment has not been defined in the maintenance order, when you create the maintenance entry, you cannot specify the equipment, because, for example, if the maintenance order has only one equipment, when we create the maintenance entry, we are not be able to specify that equipment, any equipment. we are not going to specify any equipment aside from the, I think is for issue IC stock. we cannot specify the equipment that has not been defined in the maintenance order. So otherwise, if you disable that option, you can add any equipment in the maintenance entry, even they are not defined in the maintenance order. So this is we have been covering the setup and how we are going to create the maintenance order, maintenance entry, and how we are going to schedule everything like the preventative orders and schedule for the meter notification and SLA agreements, renewal notifications. So I just want to mention that if the equipment is under the maintenance, you will not be able to dispose them, because sometimes when you dispose a fixed asset, you need to look at the status, the physical status, and if the fixed asset is under the maintenance, under the maintenance is in the maintenance order, you are not be able to do any transactions like splitting, merge, or disposal. So you need to take a look at the physical status. For those equipment like this one, if this is under the maintenance order, you need to close the maintenance order before you dispose it. And I think this will be all I have to cover. Okay, thank you for your time for today.